What's good? Hello, how y'all feeling? It's your boy BT back doing yet another Brate podcast. It's Sunday, midday for some, late night for others, depending on how your night flows. Hope everybody's doing pretty awesome and productive. I will be the first to admit that I have really been in a bit of an idle mode, trying to just work on things for myself, building a few behind the scenes actions. I've mentioned a few of those things to some of you all. I guess I'll use this first bit of the podcast to kind of make it as a mini promo. I do have an Instagram that I finally am going to be sharing. The name of it is Brate Podcast. On that page, you will see when I go live. I did not use it today because I need to get, before I can really use it, I need to actually get followers on there. However, on my Facebook like page, Brate Podcast, I have been able to kind of, I guess you can say I maneuvered it or manipulated it to be what I wanted it to be, and it worked out for the better. So it went from initially being just my, it was going to be for my Brate 82 branding, but it's been converted as of yesterday / this morning to the Brate Podcast, like page. So if you're not following that page or you're not liking that page, please go check it out. Just if you go on Facebook and search for Brate Podcast, you will get updates and links to the podcast when they go live. My podcast is up right now. Based on how they're connected, you'll mainly be connected to the page. My podcast initially goes to my personal page, but then I'm going to be sharing them to that like page. So once that all gets set up and migrated and going, then we'll just kind of keep it moving from there. So I'm not going to really bore you with all the pre-forewarned details. You probably are reading the description and kind of see a few of the topics that I have. I have quite a stack of topics, and for the first time since doing my podcast, I'm finally getting this together where I'm not just kind of sitting here and going on a ramble about different topics and not really having any information or any articles or any ways to kind of say, hey, this is where this came from, or this is why I'm going into this topic. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The first story, I believe I mentioned this story in the last podcast for sports. If I did, oh well, but if I did not, then excellent. I can kind of get away with breaking it down again. Ben Simmons this year will not be eligible for the John Wooden Award. Now, I said Naismith Award in the description, so I can go back and edit that. So if you read that or noticed that, please forgive me. It was not intentional. It's just been me kind of rushing. So again, still working and learning. It's just the way it is. But he is not eligible for the John Wooden Award this year. And the reason why is the most minor yet legitimate reason as to why he's not eligible. He can't keep his grades up. One of the requirements is that you have to have at least a 2.0 GPA, and he was benched back in February on the 20th against Tennessee because of academic issues. So between that, among other things, that kind of made him ineligible for the Wooden Award. And the rate that the team is going this year, it's a slim chance that they will even make the tournament, because I've said this before and I'm going to emphasize it again. LSU sucks. He's a good player. He's going to go to the NBA. Some have him as a number 1 pick. I probably would say it's going to be a number 2, but it's all going to be based on the NBA Combine, which I'm not going to talk about right now, because let's let the NFL have their shining moment, because right now we need to get the NFL Combine ball rolling and just kind of roll with that. So Ben Simmons will not be able to be a candidate as part of the Wooden Award this year. So that story is kind of going to hurt a lot of people, but I mean, in the same token, a lot of people really don't watch college basketball would even pay that any mind. So it's not a big deal. Next topic. Peyton Manning has finally decided to call it quits. I think we knew he was going to retire the minute they won the Super Bowl against Carolina. Now, maybe I'm saying that because I know football and I have common sense. But the truth is, we kind of saw this coming, and I think no one really wanted to. It's almost like the whole analogy of we're not going to acknowledge the elephant in the room, but it's like, sir, you need to just sit down and accept that it's time to move on. I mean, he's only been in the league 18 years, 18 seasons, won 5 NFL MVPs, and he's won 2 titles with different teams. So to put it mildly, he matched his brother, even though his brother still has some more time to possibly get one more ahead of him. Someone brought up the idea of the theory that if they did not win this year, he would have played another year. That's one of those, as we call, seeing is believing type of ordeals. So, Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if I do remember correctly, he's going to officially go up to the podium and make his announcement. Mr. Manning, I'm going to say this to you, and you're probably not going to ever listen to my podcast, and that's totally fine, but make your decision and stand behind it. Don't do like number 4 and decide you want to retire and then make a comeback. And the only thing that I realistically see him doing is that he may request to retire as a Colt. And if he does that, I mean, personally, that's his choice. I know that's kind of one of the weirdest ways to look at it, but if he wants to go out with that team, that's his personal preference. I mean, he's done quite a bit for the league, so he has that right or that option to do so. So the next topic that I'm going to jump into is a bit of a weird topic, but it's been kind of like it's kind of almost like watching 2 little kids, instead of actually fighting, just kind of slap boxing, but they're just slapping at each other like smack, back to you, whatever. Marvin Harrison was inducted to the Hall of Fame. So that means in hindsight that he got his gold jacket. Yay, cool, all well and good. Well, one of my good old wide receivers in the league, known as Terrell Owens, decided to respond back. And of all things, he made the most innuendo-based reference towards him in saying shots fired. So for those of you who may or may not know, Marvin Harrison was involved as part of an incident where a gun that he owned was part of a shooting. He didn't use the gun personally, but the gun was a part of it. There was no charges or nothing really escalated from that situation, but it was coincidental because obviously once that all happened, he kind of faded off to the sunset, and we really didn't hear from him too much again. It's crazy because I just feel like athletes find ways to do things wrong, and this is one of the examples of it was done wrong, even though neither one of them are obviously playing. I mean, if T.O. were up for the Hall, I would say go ahead, but it comes down to having the spots, getting the votes, and having the stats along with the character to fulfill it. He's had good seasons, but it wasn't consistent. And I think that's where they kind of split apart. And a lot of people will agree with that. A lot of people disagree with that. And I fully understand. So I wouldn't push for nor against anyone's viewpoints about that. So those two are kind of going at it, but it really kind of just was like a here today, gone tomorrow, and it's like done and over with. All right, y'all done, cool. Let's move forward. It's been just a trend because you just have two wideouts who pretty much dominated the position. That's really the best way to describe it. So that's that with those guys. This story I just literally plugged in today because it actually happened today. And then as an added bonus, we were kind of watching it and it just was kind of like a blind history. I guess you can call it the term history fighting history. Earlier today, the Golden State Warriors played the LA Lakers. And they played at the Staples Center, and it was a big deal because Kobe played, and they made these socks personally for him that had like the 24 on them, and on the toe of the sock it had the years he was in the league, 1996 to 2016. So I mean, it was all those things and all those factors into it. Kobe didn't play much time. Kobe didn't have to play much time. But the icing on the cake is that the Lakers pulled off the biggest upset in the NBA regular season history by defeating Golden State 112-95. And what's interesting about the game was there was really no point that Golden State really took the lead or took over. You can tell how bad of a game this was because these are two stats, and anybody who knows me, I'm a numbers guy, so this kind of plays a role into the game as well. Between Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, you got 33 points. Okay, cool. You got 33 points. As far as if I'm thinking the numbers correctly, I believe it was 15 and 18 respectively. But as far as shooting goes, they were 13 of 40 from the field, and ridiculously, they were 1 of 18 from the 3-point line. And the other factor of this game as to what made it such a huge split and a major challenge was that, okay, and all right, there's your answer. I'm sorry. Curry had 18. But what made it an interesting stat of this game, and it was evident in the first half, and this is what kind of put the game out of its misery before it even had a chance, was there were a lot of turnovers. Golden State could not keep control of the ball to save their soul. And you almost want to look at it and say, well, wow, what happened? When the reality was nothing really happened. It was just sloppy basketball. There was one instance of the game where my friend and I were watching the game, and literally it was like no one said, okay, let's slow it down, get the game under control. It never happened. And then out of all things, it ended up being that D'Angelo Russell hit a key 3-pointer at that point. And the coincidental part, like I said, Kobe really didn't do much. It's a tough stat, or it's a unique setup when your leading scorer is, of all people, your leading scorer was Jordan Clarkson with 25 points. And he kind of had a pretty solid performance, just hitting key jumpers here and there. He was kind of, had his stints of trying to go at Steph, and that was, interesting as well. Everyone's jumping on it now because here we are. We're at the point where we're trying to keep track of who has what points, how many games they have, how many games they've lost. Now you look at it as they're still on pace to beat the Bulls record. Personally, and it's kind of half and half with me. On one hand, if they beat the record, yay, they beat the record. If they don't, who cares? I mean, it's a record. Sometimes, like even with Carolina, and Carolina went through this. I'm glad Carolina lost their game, but when New England went through it, it was even worse. Trying to beat an undefeated record is a challenging task, but an even more challenging task is when you're trying to beat a record that's been in the books since 1995-96. So that was before, if my memory serves me correct, that was before Kobe was drafted. Let that sink in for a second. So we're coming up on 21 years of a record that's set in the books and hasn't been touched. Teams have come close, but not really. So props to the Lakers for pulling off the win. They're just trying to just play to play right now. Their goal is to get a lottery pick because Kobe's riding off into the sunset, and they are mainly going to be building their offense around Clarkson, Russell, and Julius Randle. I gave some stats to my friend in telling him about how it's going to be an interesting process seeing Roy Hibbert, or it was entertaining to watch Roy Hibbert averaging less than 7 points a game. And he's a 7-footer. That's sad. And I mean that with the most honest and unfiltered mindset possible. So that's been going on, and that game happened, and it kind of went the way it did, and props to them for, doing what they did. So Lakers pull off the upset, and they're moving on, and they're going to continue their road to the joy of sending off Kobe on his farewell tour. Now, this topic I'm personally throwing in myself. Number one, because I can, and number two, because it's just me being weird. So I threw up a topic in my sports group, and I'm gonna just give the title or give the briefing of the topic, and then I'm gonna name some players. I'm not gonna name numbers because some of them will be too obvious, but it'll also kind of get the ball rolling, because I noticed when I put it in the group, everybody was kind of, I want to talk about it, but not really, I'm not sure. So this will kind of get some of your brains flowing a little bit on some athletes or some guys who wore different numbers in the league. The question was, who is known, or who's the most famous player for wearing different jerseys in the NBA? Prime example, number 0, hands down, Gilbert Arenas, currently Russell Westbrook. But then you have literally from 0 to 99. I believe the oddest one still would be Ron Artest, because he wore his number to symbolize the amount of times that Michael Jackson went number 1 on the charts with an album, and I can't think of the name of the album. Someone's gonna fact check me, and if they do, that's okay. I'm not concerned. But I'm gonna name off a few guys, and I'm gonna let numbers just kind of run through your brain and go with it from there. Reggie Miller, Tracy McGrady, Kevin Johnson, Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Clyde Drexler, Detlef Schrempf, Gary Payton, Wilt Chamberlain, Pau Gasol, AC Green, Buck Williams, Kevin Duckworth, Robert Parrish, Sean Bradley, George Mirasan, Dikembe Mutombo, Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal. Yeah. I threw names, but those who are listening are going to know exactly what those names refer to, and it'll kind of get some brains flowing and get some debates going, and that's my goal. So enjoy, have at that, go for what you know. I ain't touching it, and I ain't in it, and I ain't got nothing to do with it, because I ain't got no worries. but yeah, I love those little unique conversations about sports, or to get the brain flowing for prepping your mind for something a little different and outside the box. So my final topic that I'm going to do is, we're a week away from March Madness, which means conferences and players are punching tickets to get spots to play, to get at-large bids. There are going to be those who win regular season conference tournaments or conference championships. There are going to be those who win playoff conference championships, and then there are those at-large bids, and then there are our favorite infamous snubs. So we're going to see how it all goes, especially since we went from the dreaded 64 team format to now 68. So it gives like another 4 guys or another 4 teams a chance to kind of be productive and proactive and do something with their souls and their lives. So far, 4 teams have currently punched their ticket to the big dance, and those teams are Yale from the Ivy League, Northern Iowa from Missouri Valley, Austin P, if I'm mispronouncing it, I'm not going to even try to act like I know, from Ohio Valley, and UNC Asheville from the Big South. A lot of people will know the the UNC Asheville team based on him having the big 7-footer who kind of made a mark at the time when he was playing and kind of did his thing. So I just know we're going to have it's going to be a lot of tournaments you're going to see. So anybody who's not into college basketball, do not watch ESPN, do not watch CBS Sports, do not watch any stations that promote the sports realm of college basketball, because all of your major conferences are about to get their tournaments rolling. Atlantic 10, American East, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, MEAC, let's see, did I miss anybody? SEC, ACC, all of those conferences are going to be consuming television for a while. So the easiest thing I can tell you to do is just let it happen. I truly am admitting to the fact that I love the format. I can have a little bit more fun and be a little bit generic, but be creative, because I have the information in front of me and I'm not just doing something and saying, oh, I don't have any information. Now I have something to back what I'm talking about. So I'm going to be improving and working on that more. So I'm not just sitting here and just doing a podcast and saying, all right, I got my information, I'm ready. So I'd said that at the beginning, but I'm saying it now. So I just want to make sure everyone keeps track of that. If you're not already following my page on Twitter, I'm on Brights82, since I already said it. Facebook, Brights82, Instagram, Brights82. For the podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, I am under Brights82. I'm sorry, Brights Podcast, excuse me. So I will be posting when I go live. I'm no longer just going to go live and you all just catch it. I'm going to post when I go live. It's going to show when I go live. You're going to know when I go live, and I'm going to go live, and that's where I'm at. So continue listening, continue enjoying. I know one of my friends just said she's listening in. I hope she is. She's probably not going to have a clue about any of this stuff, and that's okay. If I was doing makeup work, I would get you on the show, because you can kind of educate me on what to buy, even though I wouldn't have a clue, because I'm not buying it for anybody. That's neither here nor there. Breath. But in the meantime, in between time, I hope you all have enjoyed this podcast. It has been a blast. It's been a blessing. I will get back to a regular flow of schedule. I've been just busy with life is the best way to describe it, and the most honest excuse I have. So until next time, I'm going to end this here. Reach for my fan and my water, because I'm hot and it's killing me. And until next time, this is BT signing out. Y'all take it easy. Peace.